November 14th. Just when scientists thought they had 3i Atlas figured out, it does something nobody predicted. The tail that was 3 degrees wide 2 days ago, now it's 4 degrees and still growing. The green glow that was faint, now it's lighting up telescopes worldwide. After hiding behind the sun for 2 weeks, this interstellar visitor re-emerged into our pre-dawn sky on November 11th, and in just 3 days, it's undergone what scientists are calling a dramatic transformation. On November 11th, South Africa's Meerkat radio telescope picked up something never captured from an interstellar object before: radio emissions from a visitor potentially 7 billion years old. Let's break down the last 4 days.
3 things today. First, what happened between November 11th and 14th that has scientists completely rethinking their predictions about this thing? Second, what those radio signals actually are and why the latest data makes them even more interesting. Third, we're myth-busting 3 wild claims that exploded online this week, including one saying it's about to reveal itself as an alien mothership December 19th.
So November 11th, just after re-emerging from behind the sun, Italy's Virtual Telescope project captures their first clear shot. The ion tail is already visible at about 0.7 degrees long, and there's something else showing up called an anti-tail pointing in the opposite direction. That blue glow comes from ionized carbon monoxide and water molecules getting stripped by solar wind.
At this point, brightness is sitting around magnitude 9.9, which means you need at least an 8-inch telescope to see it. It's positioned in Virgo, about 5 degrees below the star Porrima. If you've got dark skies and decent equipment, you can actually spot this with your own eyes right now.
On November 13th, this is where things get really interesting. Lowell Observatory's Discovery Channel telescope captures this image, and suddenly the whole comet is glowing bright green. That's from diatomic carbon molecules getting hit by solar ultraviolet radiation and fluorescing. The coma has expanded to about 25 arcseconds, and dust production is up to roughly 25 kilograms per second.
The ion tail at this point has reached 3.5 degrees, and here's what's wild about that. There's this optical illusion happening, where foreground zodiacal light makes part of the tail look hidden. Some people online started claiming the tail disappeared, or that NASA was hiding something, but it's just dust between us and the comet, creating that effect. And then November 14th, anti-tail we saw a few days ago has re-emerged after another coronal mass ejection from the sun hit it.
What this reveals is fresh, volatile material getting released, probably from what scientists are describing as a porous, Swiss cheese nucleus about 1.5 kilometers in diameter. The Virtual Telescope project is saying the tail is still growing despite the comet moving away from the sun, which is unusual but not unprecedented.
And here's the important part for anyone worried about trajectory changes. All 3 non-gravitational force parameters, A1, A2, and A3, are below 10 to the negative 8th astronomical units per day squared. That's essentially 0. No course corrections, no sudden maneuvers, nothing.
So that brings us back to the discovery that kicked off all this attention. November 11th, South Africa's Meerkat radio telescope array detected radio emissions from 3i Atlas for the first time. This is genuinely historic because it's the first time we've ever picked up radio waves from an interstellar object.
What exactly are these radio signals? They're hydroxyl radicals, basically OH molecules, which are just oxygen and hydrogen bonded together. These form when ultraviolet radiation from the sun literally tears water molecules apart in the comet's atmosphere. When that happens, you get this characteristic radio signature at 1665 and 1667 megahertz. The production rate is about 10 to the 29th hydroxyl radicals created every single second.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Radio signals from space sounds like aliens, but this is completely textbook comet behavior. We've detected hydroxyl emissions from tons of solar system comets. The only reason this one is special is because we're detecting it from material that didn't form around our sun. This water came from around another star, potentially 7 billion years ago.
Here's what makes the follow-up observations from November 12th fascinating. That deuterium enrichment I mentioned, where the deuterium to hydrogen ratio is about 1.8 times solar values, has remained stable across multiple observations now. Deuterium is heavy hydrogen with an extra neutron. That elevated ratio is like a fossil fingerprint from the star system where this comet formed. Now, one thing that's causing debate is how intact this thing stayed through perihelion. On October 30th, it passed within 0.85 astronomical units of the sun, experiencing temperatures over 300 degrees Celsius. Most people expected at least some fragmentation or breakup, but it came through completely intact, still one solid nucleus. Harvard's Avi Loeb gave an interview to the New York Post where he called this evidence of engineered structural integrity, suggesting that maybe it's built to withstand these temperatures.
But here's the thing. Small icy bodies surviving close solar approaches isn't that unusual. Borisov, the interstellar comet from 2019, also survived its perihelion intact.
Between now and December 19th, every major telescope is locked on this thing. NASA's Goldstone radar will attempt shape mapping. James Webb is scheduled for mid-infrared spectroscopy. Hubble's running continuous ultraviolet observations to track gas composition changes. And there's been some noise online about delays in releasing high-resolution images from Mars orbiters, but those are going through standard review processes right now. Then, March 2026, it passes Jupiter at half an astronomical unit. The proposal to retarget Juno for a potential intercept is still under review. And after that, by late 2027, it'll fade beyond detection range and exit the solar system permanently, heading south through the galactic disk. All right, this story exploded online this week. Let's myth-bust the wildest claims. This one's evolved over the week. Earlier, it was just Michael Salla making these claims, but now Avi Loeb has escalated it by suggesting the UN should prepare protocols for potential emergence scenarios on December 19th when it reaches closest approach to Earth. To be fair to Loeb, he's not saying it's definitely artificial. His exact position is that the combination of anomalies, particularly the structural integrity through perihelion and the flat orbital inclination, deserve investigation under the assumption that low-probability scenarios shouldn't be dismissed. He's estimating 30 to 40% chance of artificial origin based on those factors.
But here's the broader scientific consensus. About 95% of astronomers working on this say natural comet. Every observation, the hydroxyl radio emissions, the spectroscopy showing normal comet chemistry, the orbital dynamics following gravitational laws with no thrust detected, all of it points to a natural object with some unusual but explainable characteristics. What will actually happen December 19th? Observatories will get their best look at an active interstellar comet at 1.4 AU distance. Detailed spectroscopy, radar mapping, searches for smaller debris. That's the plan. Not a mothership revealed, not first contact, just really good science on an extraordinary natural object.
If you've seen space myths on the internet, drop the source in comments. Black holes, exoplanets, missions, anything. We'll myth bust the best ones coming up. Every day at Galactic Theory, we cover space news with actual data, not hype. Real science, proper sources, myth-busting when needed. We give you space news that respects your intelligence. If that sounds good, hit subscribe right now. We're building something different here.